Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be solving the first 5 questions of this paper, which is basically half of this paper. So let's start. So for question 1, Rowena buys and sells clothes. She buys a jacket for $40 and then sells it for $45.40. We're asked to find the percentage profit. So what I did is break it down into 3 steps, and then once we are done with that, I'm going to show you how to do it all in one small step. So let's try to find the profit first. How much did she actually make, right? So in order to find the profit, we're going to take the cost price, which was the $40, and subtract it from the selling price, which was $45.40. So if we do that, we end up with $5.40. So that's how much she made. But we're not done yet. We want the percentage profit, right? So out of the $40 that she used, she ended up making $5.40, right? So $5.40 out of the $40 that she used. So when you listen to the phrase out of, it simply means division. So that's something that you can make use of. It's simple. It's similar to when, for example, you get 24 out of 25 in a test. You know, it's 24 out of, so that's division. Okay, so we're done with that. We use our calculator and we get 0.135. That's in decimal form. Now you'll notice that the dollar sign is gone now, and that is because it's division. So this dollar sign will cancel out, right? It's similar to like 5 divided by 5, which is just 1, right? So anything divided by itself is simply 1, and anything multiplied by 1 is just that same thing. So we end up with 0.135. We have to change that into a percentage, so we just multiply it by 100, and that is 13.5%. So we can do that, of course, in one simple step. So we have here step 1, which is 45.40 minus 40, divided by 40, which is step 2, multiplied by 100, which is step 3. So you can just do this one thing, and it'll give you 13.5%. Okay, so moving on. She sells a dress for $42.60. After making a profit of 20% on the cost price, calculate the cost price. So, remember how we showed you this part? We're going to make use of it. So, we have the selling price minus cost price divided by the cost price times 100. Now, we don't know what the cost price is, so we're going to place a variable there instead, and I chose the variable x. So, you have 42.60 minus x over x times 100 is 20%. So all we have to do for this question is solve for x. So let's go one step at a time. So step 1. I moved this 100 to this side. So what that means is I divided the entire thing by 100. And here 100 divided by 100 is just 1, so it doesn't really matter, right? It's gone in this case. So here we have the 20 divided by 100. Okay? So what you do on one side, you have to do on the other. Now, we have 20 divided by 100, which is 0.2. So for the second step, we're going to move this x over here. So what I'm trying to say is that you do the opposite of the operation that you have. So in this case, it was multiplication. To move it to the side, it was division. Here, in this case, it's division. So to move it to this side, it's multiplication. So it's going to be 0.2 times this x, right? So this is what we end up with. Now, for the final step, not the final step, the third step, we're going to move this negative x to this side. In order to do that, you're going to add x to both sides. Of course, doesn't matter in this case because negative x plus x is just 0. So negative 1 plus 1 or 1 minus 1 is 0. So we move it to this side, it becomes positive x. So here, we don't write the coefficient 1, but we just assume that there's a 1 there. So 1 plus 0.2 is just, 1.2. Now all we have to do is remove this 1.2, so it's multiplication, it's going to become division. There you go, that's what x is. You notice that there's a dollar sign here, but there isn't any here, so that means the dollar sign isn't canceled out, and so you end up with $35.50. So that just means that was the original price that she bought the dress for. Okay, so moving on. So Sarah invests $500 for 15 years. At a rate of 2% per year simple interest. Calculate the total interest Sarah receives. So let's try to do that. Now the good thing about simple interest formula is that it gives us just the interest. It doesn't involve the original money that you invested as well. So in this case, they're just asking us for the total interest, nothing else. So that's a good thing. Okay, so simple interest is the initial principal amount, which is $500, times the rate in decimals, times the time period. So in this case, it's 15 years. So you can write it as A is equal to PRT. So A is equal to 500 times 2 over 100, because we're changing it to decimal, times 15. That's $150. Okay, moving on. Now, Thomas has 2 cars. The value today of one car is $21,000. The value of this car decreases exponentially by 18% each year. So, calculate the value of this car after 5 years. Give your answer correct to the nearest $100. Now, in this case, we're going to be using compound interest instead of simple interest, simply because this rate is added to the value every single year. So it's not an overall thing. So in order to find compound interest, it's the principal amount, which is P, and then open brackets 1. So when we talk about 1, it also means 100%. So that's something you'll also need to know about when you're dealing with probability, right? So out of that 100%, we're decreasing exponentially by 18%. So it's going to be 100 minus 18. But if it was increasing, it would have been the plus, right? Okay, so let's just move this aside. So 1 plus R, which is the rate in decimal, and then R divided by the number of times interest applied per time period. So in this case, it's going to be 1 because we're talking about each year. But if they said each month, for example, it's going to be divided by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. Or if it was in weeks, it would have been 52 weeks in a year, right? So it's going to be divided by 52. And then N, which is the number of times interest applied per time period, times the time period, which is, well, 5 years. So let's do that. It can be written in this form. Let's go right here. So 21,000, open bracket 1 minus, because we told you, and then 0.18 because again, it has to be in decimal form, divided by 1, and then to the power of 1 times 5. The calculator, you'll get this. However, we're not done yet because they said to the nearest $100. So the 100 is right here, and then 8 is greater than 5, so we're going to round up. It's going to be $7,800 or $7,800. That is your final answer. So now, the value today of the other car is $15,000. The value of this car increases exponentially by X% each year. So after 12 years, the value of the car will be $42,190. So we're going to use the formula again, and we're going to place X in the spot of rate. So calculate for the value of X is going to be like this. So we have the final answer, and then the initial price, 1 plus, because it's increasing, and then X over 100, because again, here they gave us X as a percentage. So if this percentage wasn't here, you could have placed X without the 100, all right? But they did. And then 1 times 12, because again, it's each year, and then year. So it's the same unit. All we have to do now is solve for X. Move this one there, so it becomes division, which is the opposite operation. We have this 12 right here. It's to the power of 12, right? So if we want to move it to the other side, well, it's going to be the 12th root. Just like X squared, the opposite of it would be the square root of X, or X cubed, you will have the cubic root, right? So we have this, and you place it into your calculator. You will end up with 1.0900 and so on, right? Is equal to 1 plus X over 100. We're going to move that 1 to the other side. Moving it over here becomes -1. So then this is what you get, right? We move this 100 now over there. It's going to be times 100. So then X is 9%. So the value of his car increases exponentially by 9% each year. All right. So for question 2, we have y is equal to the power of x. Okay. Complete the table. So when x is 0, what is y? Of course, whenever anything is risen to the power of 0, the answer is 1. So 0, and then you have 1. 2 to the power of 4 is 16, because again, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So you could take these two, it gives you a 4. And then 4 times 2 is an 8. And then 8 times 2 is 16. All right, so the next part is y is equal to 14 minus x squared. So again, x is 0, but this time x isn't the power, x is down here. 2 is the power. So 0 to the power of 2 is just 0, so we have 14. And then 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. So 14 minus 16 is negative 2. Okay, I'm going to just zoom out a bit. All right, so we have this grid, and we're supposed to draw the graph of y is equal to, well, these two equations, between 0 and 4. Okay, so power graph is usually confused with an exponential graph. So this is an exponential graph, or this is exponential, which is 2 to the power of x. So in this case, the variable is the exponent. And then here, for power, it's x to the power of 2. So here, 2, the constant 2 is the power, right? Or its exponent. Okay, so let's start. So we have 0, 1. Oh my god, come on. Don't do this to me. All right. Let's make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Okay. Make a couple of them. All right. So 0, 1. So we go to 0 in the x-axis and 1 in the y. Of course, 1 is between 2 and 0, so we have to find that middle point. Here there's 5 squares, so half of 5 is 2.5. So 1, 2, and then a 0.5. And then 1 and 2. So go to 1, and then 2. And then 2 and 4, so go to 2, and then up to 4. 3 and 8. 3 and 8. And then 4 and 16. Okay, so all you have to do now is connect the points together. So I'm gonna have a line. I know a lot of people get comfortable or way too comfortable with straight lines, but it is a curved line, so be careful about that. I'm gonna create that curve, make sure the line passes through all the points. There you go. Okay, so now the next one, I'm gonna change the color, make it red. Okay, delete these. All right, so 0 and 14, then 1 and 13. So we add the 2, add the 12, then add 2.5 squares. So 1, 2, and then 8.5. And then 2 and 10, 2 and 10. There you go. 3 and 5, 3 and a 1, 2.5. 4 and negative 2. Okay, again, let's create the line. Let's change the color. All right, so all we have to do now is label these graphs because we want all the marks, and it's just good practice. Okay, so this one is y is equal to 14 minus x to the power of 2. And this one is y is equal to 2 to the power of x. Okay, so look at that, 6 whole marks. So, try your best not to mess this up because it's easy marks. All right, so use your graph to solve this equation. So 2x is equal to 12. And that looks very similar because that is basically just y is equal to 2 to the power of x. So in this case, y is 12. So let's find the value of x when y is 12. So right here at 12, we're going to keep going right until we touch the curve. We touched it right here, so now we're just going to go down, 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 till we cross the x-axis, right around here. So now just count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's around 3.6. Okay, and the next part was 2 to the power of x is equal to 14 minus x squared. So that's basically where they intersect, where they have the same y value, which is around here, right? So y is the same for both, but what is x? So we're just going to move down. The good thing about this is that in the mark scheme, they give you a range, so your graph doesn't have to be 100% correct, but it should be as precise as, humanly possible. Of course, with the computer, it's easier to draw. So it's around here. So that's 2.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's around 2.7. Okay, so for part D, on the grid, draw the line from the point 4, 2 that has a gradient of negative 4. Okay, let's find the point 4, 2. Let's make it green, so there's an X. Woo, okay. Why is it so small? Whatever, that's fine. It's more precise that way. Okay. So 4, 2, 4, and then go up to 2. Okay. So they told us that the gradient is negative 4. And what is gradient? Gradient is, well, m is equal to y over x, or rise over run. In this case, they told us that m, which, m is, well, y is equal to mx plus b, right? In a straight line. So m is considered the gradient. So we're just going to go with that, right? So m is equal to negative 4. But, where's the x? X would just be 1 in this case, because negative 4 divided by 1 is still negative 4. Okay, so that simply means that we should go 4 down and then 1 right. But there is no graph here, so we're going to go backwards, and so that would be the opposite. We're going to go 4 up and 1 left. So let's do that. Okay, so 2 plus 4 is 6. So let's go to 6, and then 1 to the right. And let's go 4 plus 6 is 10, and then 1, which is right here. Intersects that point right there. Okay, and then 10 plus 4 is 14, and then 1. There you go. All we have to do now is add the line, which in this case happens to be a straight line. Make sure you get all the points in. Okay, there you go. We can draw, actually I'm going to place it right here for you. So let's label this line as well. Because at the end, you're going to be using a pencil, so you won't be able to create all these different colors. So y is equal to negative 4, which is m, x, plus b. We don't know what b is in this case, right? I mean, we could find it. B is just going to be the y-intercept. So if you go up 1 again, up 4 again, it's going to be 14 plus 4, which is 18, and then a 1 to the left, which is going to be 0. So that means it intersects at y is equal to 18. So then we can do this. So plus 18. There you go. You don't actually have to do this, but it's always best to. Okay. Now, this straight line is what? What is the straight line? You can notice that this line is actually a tangent to the graph of y is equal to 14 minus x squared. It's a straight line that touches a curve at a single point, but it does not cross it at that point. It just touches it, right? So this is our graph, and it just touches it at the point 2, 10. All right, so 2, 10. Let's do that right now. Okay. Next question. So question 3. We have a scatter diagram, right? And it shows the physics mark and the chemistry mark for each of the 12 students. So this is what it looks like, right? Now you have the physics mark. I'm just going to move this to the side. And it's in the x-axis, meaning that it's the independent variable. So that means that chemistry mark is the dependent variable, meaning that the chem mark depends on the physics mark. So what type of correlation is shown in the scatter diagram? You'll notice that it's a positive correlation. Let's make this a little bigger. So it's a positive correlation because you'll notice that as the physics mark increased, the chemistry mark increased. So it's positive. If it was a negative correlation, it would start from around up here and it'll continue going down. All right, so they're asking us to draw the line of best fit. So in this case, or this scenario, because it's possible, to have a mark of 0, and you can't have a negative mark, so you wouldn't have to make this longer, right? If they try to confuse you and make the graph a little bit longer or a bit bigger for it to, include the negative numbers, but you can't possibly get a negative during your test unless, your teacher really wants to give you a negative mark. But anyways, we can start at the origin, and then when we're creating the line of best fit, make sure you're getting as many lines in that, as many points in that line as possible. In this case, I was able to get only 2, and basically try to get an almost equal number of points on each side. So we have here 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have 5 that aren't in the line, which is almost, even. So find an estimate of the chemistry mark for another student who has a physics mark of 4. So basically the student has a physics mark of 4, we go up, it's around 2, and teachers don't really give you 0.1 point something, so in this case we're just going to say 2, and we're going to stick with that. Okay, so a teacher records the number of days each of the 24 students in her class are absent. The frequency table shows the result. So let's try to explain what's going on here. So these are the number of days, and there's 24 students, right? Frequency is the number of students absent a certain number of days. So 10 students were never absent, 8 students were absent only once, 3 students only twice, and so on. If you count this, the 10, 8, 3, 2, 0, and 1, you'll realize that it adds up to 24, which is the number of students in her class. Okay, so we're told to find the mode, median, and mean. The mode is the most frequent number, in this case 0, because there's a total of 10 students that have never been absent, so 0. Now median is the average. Well, it's not the average, it's that middle number. So in order to find the median, we have to place all these numbers in ascending order. So let's do that. We have 10 zeros, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we have 8 ones. Okay, so what you're going to do is cross things out one at a time. I need a couple of those. Okay, so we're going to cross this 5 here. So we're going to cross one from this side, one from that side. You can continue in the same order, or you can say, okay, let me cross 2. Oh my god. Okay. From this side, so you can cross. Why is this happening? You can cross 2 from this side as well. And you're just going to continue doing that until you get to that middle number. We have these 2 numbers left. So when you have 2 numbers left, right, let me just circle. If it was an odd number, you'd have only one answer, one thing in the middle. But since it's 2 numbers, what you're going to do is going to do 1 plus 1 divided by 2. We'll divide the whole thing by 2. Because, well, there's 2 numbers. So if you do that, that'll just give you 1. So your final answer is 1. So for example, it could have been like a 3 and a 4 here. So then it would have been 3 plus 4 divided by 2. So that would have been 7 divided by 2, right? So your median is 1. And then in order to find mean, which is the average, you're going to multiply these. So for example, 10 times 0, so 10 students were absent 0 days. 8 students were absent 1 day, so 8 times 1, 3 times 2, 2 times 3, 0 times 4, 1 times 5. right? Divide by the total, which is 24. The same thing as a test, like how I told you, you can get like a 23 out of a 25, for example. You know, that's the total, and then this is the mark that you've gotten. And then place that in your calculator, you get around 1.04. So that just means that each student is about 1.04 days absent, which is just, you know, it's the average. Doesn't mean, you know, all the students were actually 1.04 days absent. Me personally, I would have just written 1 because it doesn't make sense to be 0.04 days absent unless you're a couple of hours late, I guess, to school. But in the mark scheme, they do leave it as 1.04 or 1.041. But let's just keep it to 3 significant figures. Okay, so let's move on. So for part C, 3 sizes of eggs are sold in a shop. The table shows the number of eggs of each size sold in one day. So we have the small, medium, large, the number of eggs sold. It's a range, basically. So we have 46 to 52, 52 to 62, 62 to 80. The good thing is here is that 50 is it considers 52, and then in the medium it doesn't consider 52. It takes anything that's above 52. So it's not 52 and then a 53. So that will make our calculation a lot easier. So in order to find the mean mass, what you're going to do is take the number of eggs sold, which is 78, multiply it by the middle number. So in this case, I'm going to take this right here. You're going to have 52 minus 46. Okay? And then you're going to divide that by 2, which is equal to 3. Okay? So the middle number is 3. So what we're going to do is 46 plus 3, or 52 minus 3, and it gives you 49. So that's a number in the middle. And you'll do the same thing for the medium and large, and you get 57 and 71. So that's what we did, right? So what we're supposed to do now, once we do that, is divide by the total, which they didn't tell us. Last time they told us there were 24 students. They didn't tell us the number of eggs sold. So we just have to add them up. Place that into your calculator, and you get 60.9 grams. I'm just going to leave it to, again, 3 significant figures. Okay, so on the grid, draw a histogram to show the information in the table. So histograms are similar to bar graphs, however, there isn't any space between them, and they involve, of course, the frequency density. So let's check this out. We have the x-axis, which is the mass, and then the frequency density, which is here. Now, they didn't give us the frequency density. That's something that we have to find. We have frequency density, but what is it? Frequency density is frequency divided by the group width. So the frequency is, of course, how often something's happening, or in this case, the number of eggs sold, which is 78 here, 180 here, and 162 here. Divide by the group width, which is this is the width, right? The group width. So 46 to 52. So 52 minus 46, which is 6. And then 62 minus 52 is 10. 80 minus 62 is 18. So that's the group width. So we're going to have to find the frequency density. Frequency density is, well, the height of the bar. So let's do that right now. So let's find the small frequency density. So the frequency was 78. So let me just zoom out so we don't have to go up and down every time. So it's equal to 78 divided by the group width, which happens to be 6. So place that in your calculator, gives you 13. Okay, so let's find the medium frequency density. 180 divided by 10, which is going to be 18. And then the large frequency density is going to be 162 divided by 18, which equals to 9. Okay, so that's the heights. And then the width is, well, this is the width. So that's going to be the width of this, which is, well, the mass, basically. So let's do that. I'm going to add some squares. Let's have it filled in so we can see it. Okay, let's do the small first. So the small ranges from 42, so go to 42 right here, okay, all the way to oh no, it's 46 to 52. So go to 46 to 52. So 51, 52. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 46 to 52. And the height is 13, so go up to 13. 1, 2, 2.5. Okay, so that's the small. Let's continue on to the medium. Okay, so the medium starts at 52. Okay, and it ends at 62. Just move this down. 61 and 62. Okay, and the height is 18. So let's go up to 18. There you go. So that's what I mean by they have to be touching. So unlike a bar graph, they don't have to be right next to each other. It could be like this. But with a histogram, they should be touching. And that's why if it wasn't 52, for example, it was 53, then the width would be 52.5, because then 52.5 is close to both. You get what I mean? Okay. Let's move on. So we have the large. Okay, so this one was 62 to 80. Which is basically to the end right here, and it was only up till 9. So let's go down. So here's 8, then 1, 2, and then a 0.5. There you go. So that's it. Easy 4 marks. Okay, let's move on. Oh, so another thing actually with frequency density is that you'll notice that these rectangles, basically, if you try to find their area, it'll give you the frequency. So this one would be 6 times 13, which will give you the 78. Okay, so that's how you know it's correct. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so for question 4, the diagram shows 2 sets of cards. So set A has 2 1s and then 3 2s, and set B has 1 0, 3 1s, and 1 2. So Jojo chooses 2 cards at random from set A. Okay, so 2 cards from here without replacement, so she doesn't put it back. So that means the total number of cards won't be the same. So find the probability that the 2 cards have the same number. Okay. Let's start by creating a tree diagram. Okay, so we have set A. So what are the options that we have from set A? From set A, we have the option of getting a 1 or a 2. So we have the option of getting a 1 or a 2, right? So that's our first draw. In the first time choosing a card, we can either get a 1 or a 2, right? Okay, so say we chosen a 1 the first time. We still have the option of getting a 1 or a 2. So we're going to place that here. And then, for example, if our first time getting a card, we ended up with 2, we still have the option of getting these 2s or these 1s, right? So it's the same thing, 1 and 2. Okay, so let's just add the lines. Okay, so there you go. That's our tree diagram. For here, we have the first draw. And then here we have our second draw. Okay, so now what? Now we have to place the probability. So that would mean this. So you know how earlier I said that 1 basically means 100%? So that's basically the full probability, that it just has to add up to 1. So we're going to have it in fraction form for now. So I'll show you what I mean. So what's the chance of getting a 1 on the first try? You'll notice that that chance is a 2 out of 5, right? So 2 out of 5 will be our probability, which is in fraction form. You can have it in decimal form as well. Okay, I'm going to make a couple of copies. Let's do this one. So what's the chance of getting a 2 the first time? It's going to be 3 out of the total 5. So 3 out of, which is division, remember, out of 5. Okay, so say the first time we ended up getting the card labeled 1. So what's our probability of getting a 1 the second time? So remember, without replacement, that means we don't put this one back in, or this one, for example. So say this is the one that we chose. We don't put it back in. So the chance of getting a 1 again is going to be only 1 out of 4, because this is not there anymore. So the total of cards, so the total number of cards is 4. So 1 out of 4. We can do the 2 as well, which is going to be 3 out of 4. And you notice 2 over 5 plus 3 over 5 is equal to 5 over 5, which is just 1. Again, that 100%. And then 1 over 4 plus the 3 over 4, it still gives you 1, right? So we'll move on, and we'll just do this one, for example. So say you chose a 2 the first time. So say it's this one. What's the probability of getting a 2 the second time around? It's going to be 2 out of the total 4. So this one, you can guess without even having to look, would be 2 out of 4 as well. Okay, so they told us find the probability that the 2 cards have the same number. So if they have the same number, that would mean this. So let's just find the ones with the same number. So we have 1 and 1. Well, I guess I can't move it around too much. And we have the option of getting a 2 and a 2. So this is what I mean by across is x, or across is multiplication. So when we're going across from here to here, you're going to multiply these two numbers. When we're going up or down, we're going to add. So this is what our final answer would be. It's going to be 2 over 5, or 2 out of 5, sorry, times 1 out of 4, plus, because we're moving down here, for example, for this example is 3 out of 5 times 2 out of 4. So just place that into your calculator and get your answer. And that would be 2 out of 5. Okay, so let's move on to part 2. So Jojo replaces the 2 cards. So she puts them back. And Kylie then chooses 1 card at random from set A and 1 card at random from set B. Find the probability that the 2 cards have the same number. Okay, so let's create a small tree diagram. So let's see, she gets something from set A. So what are our options again from set A? It's right here. So copy paste. Okay. So she gets something from set A. Okay, so she's either going to get a 1 or a 2. But then instead of getting something from set A again, she's going to set B. So I'm going to put this set A here at the top. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, paste, and we're going to have a set B. Okay. So what is our option from set B? Right here we have a 0, 1, or a 2. So we have 3 options. So you have the option of getting a 0, a 1, or a 2. And you're going to repeat again. Because even if you got a 2 from set A, it's not going to affect any of the cards in set B. Okay, so now that we have our tree diagram, let's just put in the values. Let's change the color again. Alright. Let's make some multiple copies. Alright, so find the probability that 2 cards have the same number. So let's just choose the ones with the same number. And in this case, it's just 2 options, which is really great, just like the first time. I'm going to just copy this. Paste. So we can have a 1 and a 1. Or a 2 and a 2. Okay. So let's put in the values. So probability of getting set 1 or from set A, A1 is like before, 2 out of 5. And then A2 would be 3 out of 5. Now, probability of getting a 0 from set B is, well, 1 out of total 5. Oh, we don't need that actually. Let's just focus on the ones that we have. So probability of getting a 1 from set B is a 3 out of 5. So let's just write that. Okay. Let's write it first, 3 out of 5. And you can put that back there. Then probability of getting a 2 is, well, just 1 out of the 5. It's not 4 this time because we're not taking something twice from there. It's just this one time. So 1 out of 5. Anyways, so let's answer that. So it's going to be 2 out of 5 times 3 out of 5 going across, plus, because now we're going down, it's going to be 3 out of 5, again going across, so times 1 over 5. So that should give us 9 out of 25. So that's our final answer. Okay, so let's move on. So who's most likely to choose two cards that have the same number? Show while you're working. So what we basically need to do is compare the two answers that we got. 2 out of 5 and 9 out of 25. So what we can do is make sure both fractions have a common denominator so you can compare them. Of course, you can use your calculator. However, remember, it's important to show your work so you're not suspected of cheating, and so you can make sure you get all full marks, because you do get marks from showing your work. So let's do that right now. Okay, so we have 2 out of 5, and we have 9 out of 25. So try to find the lowest common denominator, which is going to be 25 in this case. So we're going to multiply this entire thing by 5, right? So 5 times 5. And what you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So that would be 5 times 2 is a 10 out of 25. You'll notice that 10 is greater than 9. So who is most likely to choose the two cards? That would be Jojo. Okay, so let's move on. So part B, we have set C, which is 4, 4, 5, 5, 5. So Lena chooses 3 cards at random from set C without replacement, doesn't put them back. Find the probability that the third card chosen is number 4. I have something very specific. So I went ahead and created the tree diagram. So this is the first draw, you can get a 4 or a 5. Second draw, again, you can get either a 4 or a 5. And the third draw, it's still a 4 or a 5. So I placed it next here because there is no third 4. There's only 2. So we can't do this unless, of course, she was putting them back in. But in this case, she isn't. So this option is out. So you have the option of getting a 4 and then a 4 the second time and then a 5. Then a 4 and a 5. So you don't have to worry about this 5 because, well, there's 3 5s. So you can have the 5, 5, 5 option. Okay. So all we have to do now is figure out where is for the last number. It's here, final card to be chosen, and a 4 here and a 4 here. So we only need to find the values for these. So let's do that. Okay, so what's the chance of getting 4 the first time? 2 out of the 5. And then right here, what's the chance of getting a 5 the second time? It's just going to be a 3 out of the 4 because, again, we're not putting them back in. And then the option of getting a 4 after getting that 5. So this 4 is gone, this 5 is gone. So we have the option of 1 4 out of only, well, 3 cards left. So 1 out of the 3. So we've done the first one. Then we need to do this one, which, again, you can just do 3 over 5 because you don't even have to check. It just has to add up to 1. So we can go up here. Chance of getting a 4 would be 2 out of 4. Okay. And we have to do this one as well, which is also going to be 2 out of 4. And then here, we already got one of them, one of the 4s, so there's only one left, and there's only 3 cards left, so 1 out of the 3. Okay, so we need one more text box. Place it right here. So we got 2 5s. 2 5s are gone. We only have 3 cards left, and out of the 3 cards, 2 of them are 4. And that's it. So now we just have to multiply and add. So we have 2 out of 5 times 3 out of 4 times 1 out of 3. All of that plus 3 out of 5 times 2 out of 4 times 1 out of 3. Plus the final one, which is 3 out of 5 times 2 out of 4 times 2 out of 3. So place that all into your calculator. Be careful so you don't mess up because it's an easy 3 marks to gain. Your final answer would be 2 out of 5. Okay, so let's move on to the final question of this video, and that is question 5. So at a football match, the price of an adult ticket is X dollars. We don't know. And the price of a child ticket is 2.50 cents less than the adult ticket. Okay? So there are 8,500 adults and then 2,400 children attending the football match. The total amount paid for the tickets is $320,000 and $40. So find the price of an adult ticket. Okay, so step 1 is put in the information. So one person will pay X price, one adult will pay X price. But now that there's 18,500 adults, you're just going to multiply these two, right? So X times 18,500. We're going to do the same thing with the children one, with the children price. So that will give you this, all right? So all we have to do now is solve for X. So step one would be expanding. So 2400 times X, and then 2400 times negative 2.50, which is negative 6,000. Then we're going to place the like terms together. So these two X values together gives you 20,900X. Okay? Then we're going to move this negative 6,000 to this side so it becomes positive. So we're just going to add, and this is what you get, right? Then you come here, you're going to move the 20,900 here, so it's going to divide. And then your final answer would be 15.6. And you know, just considering money-wise, that 6 would be 60 cents. So we're just going to put a 0 there. But you don't have to, but it's always best to, you know, take into account what's actually being asked of us. In this case, money. And yes, we do have, you know, 60. It doesn't just end at 6. Okay. So, I mean, by end by 6, I don't mean 0.06. It's just, you get what I mean. Okay. So factorize y squared plus 5y minus 84. So this is basically ax squared. So a, b, and c are the coefficients. So in this case here it's 1, here it's 5, and here's the constant, which is negative 84. So in order to get c, which is negative 84, we have to multiply two random numbers, okay? And in order to get b, which is right here, or to get 5, you need to add those two same numbers. So in this case, it would have been positive 12 and negative 7. So 12 times negative 7 is negative 84, okay? And then 12 plus negative 7 is just 5. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So you'll end up with this, and then you'll simply add the positive 12 and the negative 7. That's how you factorize it, and then you want to check if your answer is correct. You can always expand it, so y times y times negative 7, and so on, and you'll see it'll give you the same answer. So let's move on. So the area of the rectangle is 84 centimeters squared. Find the perimeter. Okay, so let's make use of the information that they gave us. So the area is 84, which is length times width, right? The area of a rectangle. So y times y plus 5. Okay, which is going to be y squared plus 5y. Okay, y times y, and then y times 5. And we're going to add the 84 here because that's what the area is. We already know. So we're going to move the 84 to this side. So it's going to be negative 84. And you notice it's the same thing up here. So all we have to do is factorize. So it's y plus 12 and y minus 7. So we equal it to 0. So we take the y plus 12 by itself. Okay, so that's the thing is, we can get rid of the y minus 7, right? So we can move it to the side, becomes division. 0 divided by anything is just 0. So we have y plus 12 is equal to 0, move to the other side, y is negative 12. Do the same thing with the y minus 7, and it gives us y is equal to 7. Of course, the y cannot equal negative 12. We can't have a negative length. So your answer is y is equal to 7. But we're not done. We're supposed to find the parameter. So the parameter is going to be 2 y's plus the 2 y plus 5, which is the length times width, right? So 2 length plus 2 widths. So 2 times 7 plus 2 times 7 plus 5 is 13, gives you 38. So that is your final answer. Okay, we're almost done. So in a shop, the price of a monthly magazine is $M, and the price of a weekly magazine is M minus 0.75. So it's just 75 cents cheaper, okay? So one day the shop receives $168 from selling monthly magazines and $207 from selling weekly magazines. The total number of these magazines sold during that day is 100. So in total, they sold 100 magazines. So show that this is, correct, right? Or just show that 50m squared minus 225m plus 63 is equal to 0. So let's do that. So with step 1, what you'd realize is this is the amount of money that's needed for one magazine. But we used $168 total, right? So 168 divided by M will give us the number of magazines that were sold. So say, for example, M was 2. So then $2, right? So 168 divided by that $2 would mean that there were 84 magazines, right? 84 monthly magazines. but that's just an example, right? And we know that's correct because, well, you see the dollar and the dollar, they cancel out, so it will give us a regular number, which will end up being the number of magazines. And we'll do the same for the weekly one, which is the 207 over m minus 0.75. And they told us the total number of these sold together or sold during this day is 100. So we'll just equal it to 100. And that's why there's no dollar sign in front of this 100, because at the end the dollar signs do cancel out. Okay. So step 2, all we have to do now is simplify, and yeah. So we have to find a common denominator, which is going to simply mean multiplying it by each other. So that means multiplying this fraction by m minus 0.75, right? So what you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. And then for this fraction, you'll multiply it by m. And there you go. So 168 times this, 207 times m, and then this is your denominator. It's common now. It's the same thing. And it equals to 100. Now all you have to do is expand. You end up with this. And we moved this one as well over here. So from division to multiplication. Okay. Let's go to this side. Continue expanding. So this 100m becomes 100m squared minus 100 times 0.75 is 75, and then there's an m as well, so place that there. Then place all the common numbers together. So 165 plus 207 is 375, and then we continue on. So that move this here, becomes 450, so we add. So 450 minus 126 equals 100 meters squared. We move all of this here, so it becomes 100 meters squared minus 450 plus 126, and then equals to 0, right? And it's the same thing if we place a 0 on this side or that side, doesn't make a difference. And all we have to do now is simplify, so we can divide the whole thing by 2, and it gives us this exact answer. Okay, so for the final part of this paper, we're asked to find the price of the monthly magazine and show all your workings. So we know that m is equal to the price of the monthly magazine. So we have to solve for m. We can use the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And we already know what a, b, and c are, which are these coefficients. You can substitute it in there and you can get the answer of 4.20. Or we can do it another way, which is through factorizing and then equaling it to 0. So find the two numbers where when you multiply them, it gives you 3,150, because, well, it's not really 63 in this case because the coefficient here is not 1, it's 50. So we're going to do 50 times 63, which is 3,150. And when you add them, you get b, which is negative 225. So in this case, the two numbers are negative 210 and negative 15. So when you add them, it gives you this. When you multiply these two numbers, it gives you this. And you know that a negative times a negative gives you a positive. So we're going to substitute these two values instead of negative 225, which is the same, because if you add them together, it will just give you that same number. So it's as if we never changed it. And oops, there should be a 2 here. So let me just add that, 50m squared. Okay. So let's move on to step 2. We're going to add brackets here. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to add a bracket here and a bracket here. And then a bracket here and a bracket here. So we're going to choose what's most common between these two values, right? So we have 5m, which is common to both. So put 5m outside, and that will give us 10m minus 3. So 5m times 10 is 50m squared. 5m times negative 3 is negative 15m. You do the same here, so what's common to both is negative 21. So you have negative 210. So negative 21 times 10m is this, and negative 21 times negative 3 is positive 63. You know you're on the right track when the the expressions inside the brackets are the same. So you're going to take that expression, multiply by what's on the outside, which is 5m minus 21, equal it to 0, and then like we said before, or like we solved before, you're gonna solve for m. So 10m minus 3 is 0. So they told us that m is 0.3. That cannot be possible because the weekly one is 75 cents less than that, and we can't sell it for negative. That's basically more than free. It's as if you're giving your customers money back. So we have this option though, 5m minus 21. So move the 21 there, divide by 5, gives you 4.2, which is the same as 4.20. Doesn't really make a difference. So yeah, that's it for the first 5 questions of this paper. It's really cool if you stuck around, and I hope that I helped you out just a little bit. And yeah, so I'll be posting the final 5 questions maybe tomorrow or a day after. Just make sure to subscribe so you get notified whenever I do post a video, and leave a request if you want another paper solved or anything specific. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.